Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue exploring some more body parts. We talked about the hand, and today, if you remember the hand, written in the mid-history dictionary, which I mean 2,000 years ago's dictionary, it's written like this, with the middle finger tilted toward the right, because that's the differentiator from the hair symbol, which is looking the same but tilted toward the left. And you see the simplified and traditional Chinese, they look exactly the same. And the hand symbol, when this hand symbol become not self-standing, but part of the component to make another concept, then it got abstract and simplified into this. It still have all the five fingers on there, if you know what it came from. But it's five pointers there, out of proportion, but they still have all five on there. The right side, 指, it means something tasting good. So here, the top side of it is, you can almost view it as either a spoon or spatula. And then the bottom mouth symbol with something in the mouth means something tastes good, that you want to hold in your mouth for a long time. And eventually that character became concept of a sweet. I guess that's kind of a universal taste preference, that you prefer something sweet. And when you have this food utensil next to something tastes good, that means you are you're using it for food or something that's delicious that you want to keep eating it, something like that, right? When you have the hand symbol next to something tastes good that you use utensil to eat, here actually, why it then turn out to be fingers? My current theory is probably even before we came up with chopsticks or other eating utensils like spoons to a smaller size, serving size, bite size of utensils. The spatula or this big spoon thing was for like a scoop it to your plate, or in Chinese context as your bowl. But for individual feeding practice, probably for a while, fingers were when we eat finger food for the most part. And I guess soup is only one part of it. By soup, you can drink like that. And for solid food, you can just use your hand to feed yourself. So this finger, then it's, I guess, besides finger used for making stuff or farm work, feeding is one major kind of universal for both men working in a farm field or women working in cottage industry like weaving, spinning, that domestic work. Like both genders use hands to eat. So that's a kind of a common denominator. And we use this hand feeding to refer to finger. Like that's the obvious use of finger. All right, so expressions 颐指气使, 颐指气使, we see the 指, the fingers over there. Okay, so 颐 means the jaw, the part that you're going to use to process food. And when we use the jaw, almost like you tilt your head to give your intention to show your intention to another person. So without saying anything, you just, the subtle movement of your face and specifically your jawline kind of showing a tilt. And then that gives you almost like people in power probably are more likely to be not using words much, but use more body language. And then people around that power figure got to be able to read that body language correctly. So it's without even big motion, not even finger pointing. Even if 指 here, this finger means point, and it came from we use fingers to point. But over here in this context, this finger already means the action of pointing, but the actual body part used for pointing in this case is use your jaw, very subtle head movement to point to a direction. And 气势 your air direct. So here is even more subtle, like you without even saying anything, just your air, your vibe. That's a Chinese use air equivalent to English vibe, right? Have a certain vibe around, and that enough is to send a message to people who expect it to follow the intention to carry out. And so 颐指气使 eventually became this concept of somebody who is very who knows that person has power and kind of abusive of that power by having people around this person to read the intent, read the body language without verbal communication, and to kind of influence people or will his way around. So that's 颐指气使. I don't know if a good equivalent of an English expression. It's almost like somebody who is arrogant, that you can read this arrogancy all over that person without saying anything. Okay. 指鹿为马 is, I guess, historically happened and eventually captured in this 4-character set phrase. That means it's a way to testify, to test who is your follower by stating the obvious counter fact, by pointing at a deer and claim that deer as a horse, and whoever concur with this false statement are the ones who you can trust, and they're going to follow you, even if you're stating the obvious false. So this 指鹿为马 is a weird, twisted way of seeking or speaking untruth as a way to test out your willpower. Again, this pointing at a deer as if it's a horse is a way to overpower someone to follow you, even if you're just stating the obvious false. Okay. 指数, 指代, they are two separate things, but both use this finger character. 数, 指数的数. Okay, I'm speaking Chinese to you now. Means point number. So point number has this expression actually have two meanings, very distinctly different. And I guess for Chinese, we have to read it in the context to distinguish this 指数, point number. Does that mean index number or exponent, which is x to the n's power? And that's 指数. It's a totally different thing, but Chinese happen to use the same expression. And we use the finger to mean that's the direction. If you want to read the trend correctly, you have to read x to the n's power. This n is critical thing there. Or index is the directional pointing, how you're doing relative to the benchmark. Okay. 指代, 代 means replace. So once you're pointing at something and you use that something, okay, so you're pointing at a B and replace B with A, even if you have no mentioning of A, but everybody knows in this context that even if you're just pointing toward and mentioning B, and A is the one that you're actually talking about without being verbalized. So that's 指代. It's a way of, I guess in literature or in language use is a common way to refer to something. English, it would be refer, right? Refer to something without, I guess in our communication, referring to something is a common way to communicate without saying the the original subject matter. So when you refer to something else, that can kind of use something else to help understand the original topic you're talking about. I hope that's clear. I'm kind of referring to 指代 everything in this episode, but this is the finger pointing thing. And by the way, hand gesture that looks like almost like a shooting gun. Hand motion actually means number 8 in Chinese. In one of the earlier episodes I did, I have gone over all the 10 um, finger hand gestures to mean the first 10 numbers. 1, 2, 3, right? We actually don't, it doesn't matter. Just show 1 or 2, 3 fingers, 4, 5, right? So the first 5 fingers, you just use a single hand finger, number of fingers to show the number. When it comes to 6, it's this. This is the Hawaiian shaka sign. Then when it's 7, it's this. And when it's 8, it's this. And when it's 9, it's this. And 10 is a feast. So that's a Chinese first 10 numbers finger posture or finger body language for quick communication of the numbers. There you go. Thank you for your time. See you next.